Sorry, Mr. Siegel, I did not mean to hit mute on your thing.
That's not a problem.
How are
So
you
we got
doing?
some other community members here.
That's Jack.
So just a real quick note to everybody who's on the meeting. If you do not have your video on in the conference room, they cannot see you and they do not know that you're in the meeting. So it's helpful if you turn your video on and keep yourself muted so they know that you're in the meeting today. If you're not able to turn the video on, that's okay too. Just make sure, please, to identify yourself. Thank you, Mr. Waldman, before you speak, because they will not know, they do not see your name in the black box like we do here on Zoom.
Is that blurred thing what they are saying?
Yeah. Oh, see, it's not really blurred. It's no, it's not. Doesn't catch the.
Someone's too close.
Looks
It's.
like you have a background on, Mr. Siegel, like a virtual
Oh,
background.
do
for
I
your
have a
Zoom
background?
account.
Oh, I do. I have a. I think
Yeah,
a blurred
that's what-
background.
Yeah, that's what it is.
We don't
That'll
want
do
anyone to know where
Mhm.
we're looking. Right.
Or incognito.
There we go.
Perfect.
Okay, so there's some people here.
The whole gang's
Hello, everybody.
taking the sequels hostage.
See our picture up there.
Jennifer, we don't see ourselves.
Yes, we are.
There we are. I'm gonna
You're
let-
there. You're on there. I can see you.
All right, so I'll plug in and see if I can get this up there now.
How do you get rid of this?
This is what happens to me all the time, so
I know, me too.
it's good we have a technician on here.
Yeah. An engineer on the job.
I don't know how to do that.
Have you been home or away?
What's that?
Nice bigger, but
Oh, that's Jack.
You were all good, Mr. DiPaolo. Where did you go?
it was just my screensaver, but the program wasn't coming up. Let me just try it once more time, and then I'm gonna have you do it.
I have it queued up and ready if you need it.
Okay?
Oh, look at that. All set.
Everyone have that at home on Zoom?
Yes.
All right, great. All right, so let's get started. We got, well, terrific. We got 33 in Zoom. We got a couple here in the meeting room. It's encouraging. You put a lot of effort into something that folks show that they're truly interested. There is so much misinformation about this project, and there are so many incorrect assumptions. I want to try today, it's the plan to answer your questions. We've got a little slide presentation that may stimulate some questions. Some have sent some questions to me, very informal. Last meeting, I said, jump in at any time. That didn't work too well. Let me kind of get through this and then we'll answer your questions. I hope your questions will be direct. I hope your questions will be hard. If you are in the Zoom audience, please raise your hand when you have a question. As we get into the discussion, the first thing we have to determine is the context of everything. You know, how did this come about? And that's how we're going to begin, is trying to set that context. And as we can understand the context, some of the other things become clearer. So let's just go back in time, just quickly go back to the turnover, the planning group. The plan was put some money in the original bond to do what we had to do, take a couple of years to plan and figure out what really must be done after we've had a chance to examine the club. And during that period, lots of changes. Our dining demand has increased, demand for golf has increased. Our strategy was raise the prices, reduce the number of rounds. We raised the prices, the number of rounds increased. That's good. We've got about 2,200 people that are now members with homes turning over, new buyers, younger buyers that are coming in. So that's way back at the beginning. That's how we started. So after, many of you will recall, after that was done, we had lots of special groups of members and residents for marketing, for long-range planning. And these groups came together. One of the things that came out of it was a mission statement. We did surveys, advisory groups, and fundamentally, these are the instructions that you gave us. This is the ultimate criterion by which we are able to operate. I read this at the meeting. I'm not going to read it again. Hopefully you can read it on your screen. Nowhere in our mission does it say, do the minimum. Nowhere in the mission does it say, let's just do what we have to do to get along. But the words that are used in the mission statement are adjectives like exemplary, preeminent. These are the directions that were given to the board. We take these directions that were given to the board and we take our next step. I think. That was the creation of the master plan. So we brought the architects and the master planners in, gave them all this kind of information. They, in addition to that information, went out and talked to more people, verified the information. They came up with a plan. We held town halls. There was no serious objection to the master plan. In fact, it was received. People were pretty excited by it. So I invite you to look at this drawing of the master plan. On that master plan that we all agreed on were 3 new buildings. There's one by the pro shop. There's a doubling in size, a new cart barn, and a small building up by the current fitness center. So we were all kind of together on that, again, just to provide the context. Now, in the beginning of this, we had some really bad communication. We communicated the results that we saw, but we didn't communicate the process that we went through to get there. And one other thing that we didn't do, we were so focused on communicating all the projects, we forgot to tell you the end game. This is what we're trying to accomplish. This is our objective, to elevate amenities and infrastructure consistent with the accepted mission and vision statements, and at the same time, place the club in a healthy financial position that'll take us through the next decade. That's what our plan is. And it's important to see that we're talking about a plan, a financial plan that's going to see us through 10 years. So that means that in the money that we're asking for, we're not asking to receive bond proceeds on a Thursday and spend them on a Friday. We're asking to receive bond proceeds that are going to take us 3 to 5 years to get through the projects, and in the meantime, are going to allow us to build sufficient reserves to handle our future needs. We have gotten a little hung up on needs and wants. And maybe we should focus on what's best for the long-range future of the club, for its members, for today and for tomorrow. It's a slippery slope when we talk about needs and wants. It all depends on who you are. Now, I look at all the folks in University Park, and we talked about, let's just do what we absolutely need. Now, if that was truly our attitude when it came to shelter, we'd all be living in double wides on Route 70. But we live in University Park because it gives us far more than just what we need. So based on our mission statement, based on what our objective was, we're not trying to distinguish between needs and wants. We're trying to do what's going to be best for the long-term interests of the club and its members. We're trying to get every amenity in University Park up to the University Park standard, and to be certain that there's going to be the resources to maintain it. All right, so we presented the program. There were lots of objections, too much, too soon. All right, good input. So this is what we've done since that time. Because we have heard the criticism, you're not listening, you're not doing anything. This is what we've done since that initial presentation. We've admitted to you we've made some big communication mistakes. We've gone back, repriced all the projects that we recommended. We have reviewed each price for its scope. We have sought and considered alternatives. Those that we considered and rejected before, we went back and reconsidered again. We had recommended 23,000 square feet of space. We've reduced those space recommendations. We've tried to improve the communication avenues with everyone, like these neighborhood meetings. We are in the process of developing a resident survey. We have prioritized the projects. We've engaged an architect. We're going to hire a project engineer, and we've reviewed all the requirements for the bond. So this is what we've done. We have responded to your input. All right, so that kind of sets the context of how we, as a board, got where we are. Now let's start taking a look a little more at the specifics. This is a substantially reduced project list. And this is what the board is recommending. And these are the latest prices that we are able to ascertain. So let's quickly go through. The kitchen remodel and equipment, approximately $1.9 million. It may be $1.6 million, it may be $2 million, but we won't know that until we're willing to invest $50,000 to $100,000 in architect fees to get a specific plan so we can get a bid. But we've had experts look at it. This is what they tell us. The equipment price, $700,000. That is based upon a list of equipment required in the kitchen. Now, I don't know if any of you have toured the kitchen. If you haven't, I invite you to do it. Much of that equipment is on its last legs. Looking at that kitchen, I had, we've all been really happy with the food and our chef that we lost. And why did we lose him? I happened to be talking to Rico, going through the kitchen with a member. And I said, how is it manageable, Rico, that we can deliver that food with this kind of a facility? He said, well, one of the big factors is the chef gets in at 5 in the morning and he doesn't leave until 9. That's also one of the reasons he's not with us anymore. His wife insisted he give that up. So it's extraordinarily inefficient. So that's why a kitchen is one of the top priorities. Bulkheads and bridges, $525,000. Now, I don't have every specific bulkhead. All of our bridges do need repair, but I can tell you this, it's $600 to $1,000 per foot per bulkhead. That's what it costs. We know they need repair, and if you're a golfer, I always walk up on number 11 to look in the water for balls, but you want to step on the bulkhead, somebody's going to step there soon, that's rotting away and going to be in the water. Then we have the golf irrigation, $4,700,000. Some people tell us it should be $4,300,000. $700,000, that's the latest estimate that Curtis got for the golf course irrigation. Now, this is not only for the golf course, this is for the good of the entire community. We've got to do better on our water management. The golf course is a principal water user. This is going to help the entire community as we're able to do this. Lake banks. This is a project to prevent erosion. It does make it look better. Similar projects were performed on all of the lakes that are around the restaurant building, where they were all renourished, redone. Environmental upgrades, this concerns primarily much of the equipment and buildings that are down in the maintenance area of the golf course. where we've got to be careful of the chemicals we use, the fertilizer storage, et cetera. Parking lot, $750,000. That's the estimate for the parking lot. That was a hard estimate for the parking lot. All right, just going through that list alone, we are, what, $9 million or so. These are infrastructure upgrades that we have to do. Now, there's some folks have said and written to us and said, these are just the board's dreams. The board wish list. I assure you, I don't go to bed each evening thinking it's going to make my day if all the pond banks are fixed. These are things that just have to be done to the infrastructure. They don't have to be done today, but we're making plans that are going to see us through the next decade. And we've got to have the funding that's going to get us these projects in the next 3 to 5 years. Now, when we talk about needs and wants, things that you really have to do, the next two, upgrade the varsity club and upgrade the pro shop. Those are there because in spite of so many people saying, just be concerned with your needs, those are there because we've had a great many members saying this is what they want. They want a place where they can go and socialize, have a drink, be with friends, watch a ball game. The board agrees with that in terms of enhancing our member experience. So to do that, we say $100,000 to upgrade the varsity club. That means we're going to move the pro shop to the varsity club. We're going to do paint, wallpaper, flooring, other superficial maintenance. It's going to run about $100,000. Then in order to get the pro shop up to standard that people have been asking for, which is we want a 28th hole type area. That's going to involve an expansion. Now, how far that goes, that depends. There's another estimate for the pro shop at $600,000. Considerably, we would do considerably less. But I've got the high figure in here, but 600 to $1.5 million, depending on what you want done. So we are now up to about $10 million. And on that $10 million, we really don't have much of a disagreement. And I believe that if we were to offer a $10 million bond over the next few months or so, I think we could get more than half the community to agree on these essentials. We've heard no objection to the kitchen or to the parking lot or to the irrigation. We haven't heard any at all. People see these as essential, as well as these other less expensive infrastructure programs. But let's get where the real controversy is. And that's in the needed additional space. And let's put that in perspective. We're requesting an $18 million bond. We've kind of got agreement on 10. What's the extra $8 million cost us? Somewhere between $400 and $500. That's what it costs us. So here's what we can do. If we were to increase your dues by $400, there'd be some grumbling. If we raised it by $25, there'd be some grumbling. But if we introduced your dues by $400, they would be paid. And that would produce for the club $400,000. Pretty tiny sum. But if you will give us $400 to $500, or $500 to apply to the bond, that will give us $8 million. So that's what we're spending all this time really talking about, is $400 to $500 a year. But no point throwing it out the window. It should be worth it. We should be getting something for it. And that $400 or $500 would be applied to the space that we need in the amount of $6,500,000. And this is what we need. 3,000 to 4,000 for offices, 3,000 to 4,000 for meeting rooms, 6,000 to 8,000 for fitness. Now, we have been criticized. Give me the detail, give me the detail. I can give you the reason for every square foot that's up there. If you want to take all that time, we can do it. We have gone to the experts. You know, what's a reasonable space for a person in the office? How many people are we going to have? How big should a conference room be if it's going to have 8 people in a conference room? We've gone through all of that. How many people do we want to seat in our meeting rooms? How much space per square foot? What if there are tables? We've got all of that information. I'd be happy to share it all with you. It's a great deal of detail. Fitness and wellness, we've gone to the experts and have given really minimum requirements for a fitness center. So here's how we're trying to improve the fitness center. 6,000 to 8,000 square feet. Keep in mind, it's already 2,500 to 3,000 square feet. So we're asking for a fitness center that's 6,000 to 8,000 square feet. We're talking about 3 rooms where you could exercise that will hold 15 people each. This is what the users tell us they would like to have. We're talking about additional space for free weights. We're talking about having all the machines, the free weights, positioned a safe distance from everyone. We're talking about having a stretching area. We're talking about some minor administrative space with a small room that our director of fitness can sit down with members and work out a training program with some degree of privacy. That's all we're talking about. And that totals 12 to 16,000 square feet. So let's go through each one of them quickly. Let's start with the offices. Why do we need new offices? Well, we start with all the obvious reasons. We don't have enough space. Our staff has been growing. And I don't know if you've been up to the offices, but if you have, things are stored all over the place. It's not very pleasant. There are no windows. There's no running water up there. I mean, you can't have a coffee pot in the office. It needs repair badly. It is not up to ADA code, so that's got to be changed. Most important, the board feels there is a large liability to the club and a concern for the safety of our staff. The conditions that we provided does not demonstrate we have any respect for our staff. So now here's where it gets tricky. In the feedback we've been getting, a lot of people are beginning to say, yes, we need new offices. And there have been suggestions, and one member who has been lobbying with a lot of you because he'd like to be on the board and does have some good ideas, he said, well, we just remodel these offices until we get the money to do it the right way. Here's where it's tricky. Remodel the offices. As I said, they're not code compliant. So here's what has to happen. We need an elevator. When we need an elevator, that's going to take more space than the downstairs office space where we have our catering operation, our receptions. And it's also expensive, in the $50,000 range. We have to go upstairs. We have to rip everything out because there are 2 steps in the center of everything. We believe these offices were built without a permit. That's why they're not up to code. They're built by the original developer. Perfect. So now, if you get rid of those steps to become ADA compliant, I'm sorry to take all your time, but everyone's been asking us for detail, so I want to try to give this to you. We're going to have to rip out that floor completely. Now, there are no windows. There's not enough space. So now we're going to have to alter the roof as well, put eaves in, get some windows. We're going to have to run plumbing up there, et cetera. Average cost for this kind of remodeling, $400 a square foot. Remodeling, building about the same. So we're looking to add 4,000 square feet. 3 to 4,000. So just the conventional remodeling, forget things like elevators, we're at what, $1.6 million to remodel the offices. But wait, as soon as you do that kind of extensive remodeling in a building, now we have to bring the whole building up to code. That means the downstairs too. So all the restaurant, all the restrooms, the fire system, all the glass has to be replaced because the present glass is not meet today's code, and the whole building has to now be brought up to code. So now our simple remodeling of the office is now a $4 million project. There's a domino effect here. There's a domino effect. So just to remodel the offices alone could be $4 million. Meeting rooms, we're asking 3,000 to 4,000 square feet for meeting rooms. Again, domino effect. We already have about 3,000 feet between the varsity club and the card room. We're not asking for more, but here's what happens. Folks have asked that the pro shop be moved to the varsity club and the varsity club go to the pro shop, and that the pro shop be expanded and be available really for every day or every evening usage. Great idea. Now there's no meeting space because the pro shop just took the meeting rooms. And while we might be able to use the pro shop for meetings, now that's going to be a full-time or certainly more time varsity club. We have over 200 members per week that utilize the meeting rooms. So our concept is, all right, let's kind of think this through. How do we make it better? Not so much expanding the space, but if we could get a single space that we could cut up into maybe 4 rooms, but open it up so we could seat 275, 300, we expand the possibilities for our social events and programs. We have a home for art in the park. We have room. We have room for specialty meetings. We have room for the card players. We have room if we want to develop a lecture series or a music series that would be able to do all of that. We're able to enhance the member experience. We're able to bring it up to a level, not of Lakewood Ranch Country Club or anywhere else, up to the level of University Park. Okay, the Wellness Center, 6,000 to 8,000 square feet. I mean, does anyone really object to even minor modifications of our fitness center? I mean, shouldn't there be an area where more than 6 or 8 people could exercise together and do Pilates or yoga or whatever it is? I don't know what they did. I haven't seen the inside of a fitness center for some time. But shouldn't there be sufficient space between the machines and the free weights and the stretching so that everyone is safe? In a country club of the quality of University Park, shouldn't we have a fitness and wellness center that a real one rather than an old juice bar with a few treadmills? I don't know if you realize it or not, but that's what the fitness center used to be a juice bar in the original development. But the fitness trend became so strong, the developer had to get rid of that juice bar and put a fitness center somewhere. And that was the origin of our existing fitness center. We propose 6,000 to 8,000 square feet. Again, I'm not using other country clubs. We don't want to be other country clubs, but I will tell you that in the world of country clubs, I think it's close to 60% have fitness centers that are larger than this. Again, just in terms of context. Problem, 6,000 to 8,000 feet. We do not have space in the existing building. So yeah, we can We could remodel the offices. We can just make a small addition to the fitness center. We could build a small building for meeting rooms. That is so expensive to do that. So we think maybe consolidating it into a single building might be the best way to proceed. So people say, okay, show us the specifics, be specific, show us the plans, how many bids have you gotten? Again, it's not that easy. I don't expect these are just some of the options we have for how we can split this space up. And I'm really not going to go through it all because there are so many, but this is a flow chart that I had created that tries to track the cost of each one of the options, the location for each one of the options, and all the different directions that we can go. So this board is not going to decide specifically how this new space is going to be created. It's not our task. Our task is to provide the resources to create that space. So if we go out now in the form that this is in, particularly without the full approval of everyone, that we do need the space, it will cost us in the neighborhood of $200,000 to have detailed architectural plans drawn to begin to focus in on price. If we want to get a set of plans in which we could get firm bids, we're going to be at about $300,000. And that's for one option. That's where we would have to decide the option and then get the specific price. We don't believe that is the right way to go. So here's what we are trying to do. The first thing we have to do is that we have to agree that there's a need for space. We have to say, we really need this extra space. We want this extra space. This is going to help complete the amenities for our facilities. Once we know that, then we can safely start to invest money in getting even more detailed plans. We can get serious about developing elevations and possibilities. Once we have the funding, that's when we go out to the membership. That's when we get a group of people together, and this is what we did before, that have experience in these kinds of projects. We draw from our community, the architects, the developers, the builders, the contractors, and they help sort through the options with the member input. And we implement the need that we've agreed to. But to expend those funds to refine our costs by fundamentally 10%, because the people that have looked at these projects, we've had architects, we've had developers, we've had contractors, and we're in agreement in the $400 a foot range for the development of this space. 15,000 feet, $400 a foot, that's $6 million. We've added a $500,000 there. And for anyone who would like, where is the detail? I'm not going to bore you with it, but I've got it here. The cost for bringing in the utilities, the cost for landscaping, for demolition, for site work, for building, other soft costs, contingency, the developer's fee, the engineer, the architect, the permit fees, the cost of building. We've gone through all of that detail in order to reach these prices. These were not prices that we came up with walking into the conference room on the day we talked about phase 2. A year went into this. Now, when Jack Siegel sent me a little note before the meeting, talk about the board's latest plan to do such and such, and one of the items, the board's latest plan to conduct more thorough analysis of the projects. We can. We've done it. We haven't done it once. We've done it at least twice, and some many more than that. We can give you any level of detail. But we're saying, why don't we do this like we did phase one? We agreed we wanted the restaurant renovations. We did that, we got the money, we set up, and we knew what we were going to do. Then we got the advisory groups together. And we tried to implement the plan. We got architectural renderings. You can't see it, but this was a rendering of the outside bar from the architect after we were able to commit. After we were commit. We all agreed to move ahead with it before we had this rendering. But we did not agree to implement the plan until we had all the members and everyone else involved. That's the procedure we'd like to follow. We have already, because we believe we have the support of the community for the Gulf irrigation. Now we said, okay, let's start to really refine this now. We have committed to spend $20,000 on a design for the new irrigation system. Because people have recognized the need, we're pretty sure we're going to have the funding for it. We'll spend that $20,000. We'll get the specific design. We'll be able to focus even more in on the price. We think we have a buy-in on the kitchen. So because I think we have a buy-in on the kitchen, I'm ready to meet with the architect this week or next. And with the equipment and kitchen designer, and begin to invest some money to refine these plans to move ahead, because we know the money won't be wasted. And as soon as you say, yes, we do need this space, then we're going to move ahead and we're going to start investing a lot of money to get the renderings, the drawings, the concepts, probably about $100,000 that we'll be able to show you before we get into the detail. The difficulty of doing a floor plan now is that means that we, a board, has to decide what's on the floor plan. That's not the right way to do it. Because as soon as we show you a floor plan, and you say, be specific, you said, well, somebody's going to say, move this here, move that there. We don't need this, we do need this. And we just keep going in circles. Let's first agree on the need, then let's get the group together that really knows to put it together. The board's function, provide the resources to meet the need. What we're asking for, $18 million. Wait a minute. We can't just throw $18 million at this. Is there a payoff? If we look at the financial model of country clubs, success comes to those clubs that make good, smart capital investment. It comes through dues, and it comes through initiation fees. We believe that with the investment from these funds, from this bond, that we're going to increase our revenues because of this investment by about 1.5 million each year. We have established pro formas. We will distribute them. We were planning originally on just attaching them to the prospectus for the bond, but we have pro formas. We continue to work on them, continue to refine them, that will demonstrate this, that shows where the added income is coming for. Some key questions that we get, and important ones. What's the impact on me? No, excuse me, this one first. Long-term financial plan. This is not the detail. We have the detail. This is not the detail. But this is how we see the money coming in, the money going out, and what happens to our capital reserves. You know, the whole purpose of this, one of the purposes of this is to give us time to build our capital reserves. And you'll see that this goes out for a period of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, this is 6 years. So that year end 2027, we anticipate that we will have reserves of $4,199,000. Today, our reserves, fundamentally, zero. We have plenty of capital to operate the club. We're generating enough surplus that we can take care of the routine maintenance needs of the club. The club is not in bad financial shape today. We're not concerned about today. We're concerned about the future years. We need these reserves in order to maintain the assets that we have. And so this will bring us, we project $4.2 million in reserves. I unfortunately, this is another little difficulty, again, in terms of context. On the board, we each have assignments. Steve Ledmer, he's really the financial guy. He knows the financial stuff inside and out. I deal primarily with the new space, the construction. I kind of know that inside and out. If I don't have the specifics for you in the financials, I apologize. Now, the first reaction is to people, if you're going to have a meeting like this, why don't you get both people in here that know? And the answer to that is simple, it's illegal. We can't do that. We have to operate under what are called the sunshine laws. And that means that everything that the board does must be done in public with advance notice. Everything. Not just the meetings that we have. That's good. But no two board members can talk to each other. It's not permitted under the law. So if we're talking about fitness centers and two of the board members would like to go over to the Lakewood Ranch and view the fitness center there to get some information, we have to publish it in the newspaper a week in advance and invite you all to come along. And that same procedure has to be done if we want to have a telephone call. So that's why he's not here, and maybe I can't answer some of the specific questions. We have a bond impact on the St. James home. Now, we have gone through each neighborhood, and Steve has that information, and we can try to get that to you. We have gone through each neighborhood to figure out not only what the bond impact is, but once we total up all the extras that you're being charged in taxes and bond payments and HOA fees, how much does it cost to live in University Park versus anyplace else? Well, this is a standard home. It's a $423,000 home. As we look at the bond formula for an $18 million bond, the cost will be $1,064, approximately, because we won't know until we get the final interest rates. If we went to a $12 million bond, and the $12 million would give us what we needed in those essentials, the kitchen and the kitchen, the irrigation, the other infrastructure, it would be $710. The differential between doing it right, $354 a year. As I said, depending on your home, $400 to $500. That's what we're talking about. We went through each neighborhood, picked out a typical house. Again, this is St. James. We've done it for all neighborhoods. Picked out a typical house, added together all the fees, the taxes, made adjustments for any differentials in the valuation, including the fees for the new bond. It will still cost $575 less per year for St. James than a typical home, comparable home in Lakewood Ranch. Now, this is throughout the neighborhoods, except for one. where it shows to be one way calculated, $2,000 more expensive, another way, only $200 more expensive. And that's you folks at Henley. That, I believe, is the only neighborhood that shows any kind of an increase above a comparable Lakewood Ranch property. But even at that, there's not the difference that's really going to destroy a sale. This is what we're talking about, people. $400 a year. $400 a year. It's what it costs me to take my kids out to dinner. They always order the filet. One bottle of wine's never enough. $400. That's what we're talking about. Here's the elephant in the room. Here's the question that really hasn't been asked. We have a little mention of it on the website. And someone did send me a note and did ask this question. What happens if the bond doesn't pass? These are some of the alternatives to the bond funding. The municipal bond is by far the best way to do this. And it takes advantage that we have of being a recreation district. Other country clubs, or they can't use municipal bonds. This gives us the advantage. We have these long-term projects and we're able to spread them out on a long-term basis so that you who may not be here for 30 years don't have to pay for the useful life. So what else could we possibly do? People say, well, let's get a bank loan. And I've seen that be recommended. We get a loan. We're restricted. We can only get a loan for 2 years. That's by our charter. We're not permitted. We can't go and get a mortgage on a building. We can't borrow money any longer than 2 years. People have said, well, go to UPCAI. We got good reserves. It's our money. Fat chance. Fat chance. UPCAI reserves are for the very special needs that the homeowners association has. Just the same reason the club needs its reserves. Not only that, there are legal barriers to interchanging those funds. Here's one that is not desirable at all. For work that we have to do, we could just have a $12,000 to $15,000 a year assessment. You don't need a vote for that. There is a taxing authority. We could say spread it out over 3 years, $4,000 a year. Well, that doesn't match the user life of the assets that we're funding with the people who are paying it. It's not right. It's not something we want to do. Piecemeal approach. Yeah, we can do 6 million now, we can do 6 million later. The expenses, the fixed expenses of issuing a bond are great. The needs and the projects that have to be done have to be done. Why not bite the bullet? Let's not put Band-Aids over the problems. We're not talking about that much extra money. Remember, we're in that $400 to $500 range. And let's meet the financial needs in a timely manner. So what's next? This is what we're doing. As I indicated, we're going to get with architects for more definitive information on some projects. We're going to try to get it on some of the building options too, if we can do it at a reasonable cost. We're engaging a district engineer. We have to do this for the bond anyway. So we're not spending any extra money. We have to do this for the bond. And when the district engineer comes in and determines the feasibility of our projects, and can we in fact do what we say we want to do with the funds that are going to be available. We're going to try to continue our information flow. We're going to step up. We're going to start trying to deal with an issue or two issues every week with kind of a little white paper on each one of those to keep you informed. Continue to schedule the neighborhood meetings, and we are working on the survey for all residents. So that's my story. What are your questions?
Did you have?
You have one hand raised in the audience so far.
Mark Dan has a question.
Okay, this is Dan Walker from Kenwood Park. I've read Jim Case's letter, and my concern is that Jim was not able to be convinced by the other 4 board members that it was time to do something. I think Bill has presented a great deal of facts and information and relieved, hopefully, a lot of concerns about going forward. And I think that the way that interest rates are going, the way that inflation is going, let's do it now, get it done. Let's not kick the can down the road. And I also have one question. And that question is, I realize that we're going to have to build up the reserves, and that one of the last slides were the $1.5 million a year. That's very helpful. But what is phase 3?
All right, well, you had 2 questions there.
Okay.
That's all right. You're allowed.
Okay.
No extra charge. First question is, why couldn't the board convince Jim Case? A valid question. There's a simple answer. We didn't know he felt that way. I told you we operate under sunshine. We can't talk to each other. We had an inkling, but we were not aware of that. Each of us wishes that that argument had been presented to us in the detailed fashion that it was presented to everyone else. Because what you heard and read for the first time is pretty much what we heard and read for the first time. So there was no real opportunity to change his mind. We felt that Jim had agreed with the needs, even says that in his letter. But we felt that he wanted a smaller bond only because he didn't think members would agree to it to a larger amount, and was willing to put a Band-Aid over the problems. I will say this, his letter was actually filled with inaccuracies and really some unfounded assumptions. I'd be happy to go through those if anybody wanted me to. We tried to address a few on the website, but if anybody wanted to do that, I'm happy to do it. So that's your first question, Dan. And your second was, what is phase 3?
Yep.
There are many projects that should be done to improve our club. Many of them are smaller projects that we believe can be funded through operational surplus, can be funded as we build our reserves, taken from reserves, and fund them that way. The major project that we'd be looking at right now, the major project in the master plan that we've not addressed was the expansion of the dining room, both the expansion of outdoor dining and the expansion of the indoor dining. And we're rapidly approaching where we might have to do that. But we don't see that being done in the near future. But if there's another major project, that would be it. Any other questions?
Harry has raised his hand a couple times. Yep.
Carry on the phone.
If you can,
Okay, all right, go ahead.
if you can, you kept on mentioning this figure of $400.
400 to 500.
What is that? The difference between the bigger bond and the smaller bond, or what?
That's, yes, sir. That's the difference between doing all the infrastructure projects that we agree on, pretty much, which total about 10 million, versus giving the funds in order to create the space that we need. That's the difference.
Say that again. Say that once more.
We have general agreement among the membership for about $10 million in infrastructure projects,
Right,
okay?
right.
Where the questions are and where members question the need is in the kind of space that we're asking for offices, for meeting rooms, and the fitness center.
All right, but what's the number for everything? If they agree to everything?
Approximately $1,400.
A unit,
Yes.
a year,
Going to be lower per year,
1,400.
per year.
Okay.
Anything else? Is that it?
Yes, thank you.
The first hand raised, Mr. DiPaolo, is iPhone 2. I asked them to start their video, but there's a lot of iPhones on here, so there we go.
I think that's me, Dean. Man, I was on a
It
call
is.
last week and kind of heard the tenor of the conversation, and I thought we were kind of making some headway that the board would go back and and what I heard is, we hear your concerns, et cetera, et cetera. I think you minimize the concerns. You know, the one slide that shows that it's a $400 differential. I don't know where your math starts. You just got done telling us it's now $1,400. I happen to live in Henley, and I hear it could be even higher. You know, having read Jim Case's email, a lot of us were struck by that. A lot of it think that it was very rational. It was very emotional, and I think you started today with an agenda, which is we need to get all these projects done, and here's how we're going to pay for it. You know, at what cost? You know, I think we've got to take a step back. I mean, what if this costs 20 million? What if it costs 30 million? I'm of the impression you guys would push forward for that. I think Jim Case's rationale was, why do we need all that extra space for the people? You know, we just did the bond last a year or 2 years ago, and it may not all be spent yet. So I think we're starting from the wrong premise that we need to get all these things done. I'm not sure if we need to get all these things done. And I think it's disingenuous for you to say it's we're talking about $400 when we're talking about $1,500, or maybe in Henley, even more than that. And the last thing is the 2021 property valuations, you know, that was last year, and they're only going up from there. So again, I think the math is disingenuous.
Okay. You raised a lot of points there. If I miss any of them, remind me, and I'll try to get back to them. As I said, I'd be happy to go through everything Jim Case said. Everything from the list of projects that he listed is incorrect. Jim admitted that the needs were valid. Said the proposals advanced dramatically exceed the realistic needs of fitness, workout, administrative offices. Dramatic, that's a pretty strong word, but there's no justification for that. We can justify every square foot. And let me say this about the office space. This is as a board member, and forgive me if I appear stubborn, but the appearance of the offices and the safety concerns of our staff at the offices, it cannot stand. The offices must be redone. Now, we can spend $4 million and redo them, fine. Because if we don't have the money for that, we're going to end up with 2 double wides in a corner of the parking lot where the offices will have to be, because our people cannot continue to work in that environment. It's not safe for them. It's unhealthy for them. So that's a given. That has to be done. In terms of the cost that you're talking about, the average cost, let's see what I got Henley here.
Yes.
$8 million, 5.5% bond.
18.
18 million, 5.5% bond, $1,102, the average cost we have for Henley. You say these things don't have to be done? You're right, they don't have to be done tomorrow. We're not talking about doing them tomorrow. We're talking about securing the funding now and doing them over the next 1 to 5 years. That's what we're talking about. So it's up to you. These things do have to be done. We have to take care of our bulkheads and the ponds. We have to take care of our bridges. We have to replace the irrigation system. The kitchen must be fixed. So it's really pay me now or pay me more later. I mean, that's the reality of it. We started out at $15 million. You asked us to go back, redo it, check the scope. We did that. We eliminated a lot of projects that were on that original list. So we eliminated projects and we said, fine, we're going to do less, but now it's 18 million. Because of inflation, because of interest. So we can wait, we can wait a couple of years, then the price will be 20 million. But the point is, it has to be done. And you agree that 10 million of it has to be done. And this is where the differential comes. Where there's disagreement in terms of the space, offices, meeting and fitness. We can do just the offices for 4 million, or we can do the whole thing for 6.5.
I'm not going to agree with you on the conclusion that it's going to be 20 million in however many years. Supply chains now are stressed. Pricing now is very high. Interest rates now are very high. It could be half as much in 10 years. I'm not saying I'm right or you're right, but I'm not going to buy your assertion there.
When you're talking about 10 years, you're right. I think I'd buy into that premise. We really don't know what it's going to be in 10 years. But we do know over the next few years what it might be. But we have incidentally in the construction costs factored in the fact in our cost estimates and in talking to contractors that supply are going to ease up and that prices are going to ease up. They're not going to be escalating quite as much. The price of wood is coming down. That's good news for our project that we're doing on the patio, where we have a wooden ceiling and wooden trusses. So that's good news.
I have a question. I don't know if I'm being heard. I can't raise my hand because I'm in a car, but can I ask a question?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. My name is Angela Avick. I'm here with my husband, Carl. We're out of state, but we're listening in our car. So my question has to do with the fitness center. My question is, what percentage of the residents at University Park use the fitness center? I exercise regularly, and I guess my objection is spending a lot of money on the fitness center, but we still have to pay every time we want to go use the fitness center. It's $10. I can spend $20 a month and go to LA Fitness and go to unlimited classes. I can go to one every day if I want for a fixed fee. Yet at University Park, if I want to go to one class, it's going to cost me $10. And I object to that. I think that I don't know that the majority of people at University Park use the fitness center. So why are we putting all that money into it when we're still going to have to pay every time we want to use it?
Okay, to discuss the fees, to discuss the due schedule, to discuss how that's done, I think it's off the subject here. I can understand your frustration. I think the key question here is the fitness center of sufficient quality for the users?
It's not that it's not a I mean, yes, could the fitness center be improved? Well, of course it could, but the issue is we could pour a lot of money into the fitness center. Is it still going to meet the needs that we want? Are people still going to use it? Personally, I see more people at LA Fitness than I do at University Park working out. And I just don't know that that's worth the money.
I think your point is very well taken. The point, you see more people at LA Fitness than University Park. That's a very well taken point. But I would submit this to you. If our golf course was in the same condition and same quality as our fitness center, you would see more people playing at the Meadows or someplace else that would be playing at University Park. A quality amenity attracts increased usage. Again, when you talk about needs and wants, we don't need the quality golf course. You can get a good golf experience at Palm Air, at Meadows. You can go play 18 holes, have a good time with your friends. But we have something special here, and we've made a huge capital investment in that golf course. And that is my point exactly. If you make the capital investment, if you improve the amenity, you will improve the usage. So now let me just give you some facts. Go ahead.
I don't think that the golf course and the fitness center can be compared. Use the golf course. You've already mentioned that at the beginning of your talk. I don't think the percentage of the people at University Park using the fitness center is anywhere near, and no matter what you do to this fitness center, it's not going to be available for the hours that we wanted, the number of classes that we would want to do, and we're going to still have to pay per class. I don't think that you can equate the golf course and the fitness center. I don't think that they're.
Well, I'm equating the quality of the amenity. But again, your points are well taken, but you're making lots of assumptions that are not necessarily true. Let me try to answer them for you. We have currently as many people paying the extra fee to use the fitness center as there are golf members. Not golf members, excuse me, tennis members. So the number of users is equal. And if we equate the use per square foot of the amenity occupied, the most used amenity is probably the fitness center, for the small space that it occupies and the kind of use that it gets. So how do we come up with the fitness center and what is the fitness center composed of? We take a look at some assumptions. When an amenity like a fitness center is included in a residential area, national statistics tell us you can expect a usage of about 20%. It is our hope that when the fitness center is enlarged, that we're going to be able to offer fitness membership, fitness usage to all social members as part of the membership, because we don't do enough for social members today. Social members pay $1,000 a year and they get to eat in a restaurant twice a year. That's not enough. We've got to do something about that. Now, that's also why we want more and enlarged meeting rooms, so that we can increase social opportunities for social members. But sticking to the fitness center, our population here is about 2,000. So that says under normal circumstances, that would mean 400 people would be using the fitness center. Currently, there might be about 200 people using the fitness center. So we have gone and said, all right, let's assume we're going to have 250 active users, far less than the national average. far less than the national average. What kind of space is required for that? We didn't make it up. We went out to experts, people who design fitness centers for LA Fitness as well as for country clubs. So we calculated 250 active users and 19 people per class. These are the minimum space needs. We developed the minimum space needs. Pardon me? We developed the minimum space needs for the fitness center by going to the American College of Sports Medicine. And it says for cardio weight machines, you need 10 to 14 square feet per member. You need 40 to 60 square feet per piece of equipment. 250 users, it's going to require 15 to 20 machines. These same experts who design these fitness centers and allocate the space say add 20% to the fitness space for core, stretching, free weights. Well, I'm sorry, they don't say add 20%. They say add 30 to 35%. In our calculations, we have added only 20%. Average space, if you want to do yoga, 20 to 25 square feet per person. Average space for Pilates, you need a space of 11 by 6 per person. For spin, you need 25 square feet per bike. We put this together, 6,000 to 7,000 square feet. Well, that's how we got there. And that's the kind of fitness center we got. We have no saunas. We have no steam rooms. We have no physical therapy rooms. We should have, but we eliminated it. It's one of the most important areas in country club fitness today, but it was eliminated. And we went down to the basics. 6,000 to 7,000 square feet. I don't know if that answers all your questions, but those are some of the specific details.
I appreciate that, and I understand what you're saying as far as how much space we need. But when you say that, how many people generally use fitness amenities, is that if they have to pay every time they have to go? I would question that. I don't know that that's the case because I have a lot of friends who live in places that have fitness centers. My mom and my sister are one. They don't have to pay every time they go.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. That is an issue of fees. It's an issue of dues. That's really not our subject for today. It's a good question. It's a valid question, but it's not one that I'm prepared to answer today, nor is the board. And I think maybe it's one that should be brought up.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate your listening.
Mr. Siegel is next.
Yeah, we have a couple of questions here, if you don't mind.
Yeah. Bill,
Want to sit down? You can
no, I'm good. I lost Bill.
Well,
Where are you?
it's on us now.
It's on you. Okay.
It's right here.
Okay. My name is Don Hicks from Wilton Crescent. And just a quick question for you, Bill. What happens if we get the bond, say it's whatever it is, 18 million, and all the projects come in at 20-some million? Where do we get the extra money to do all the projects?
Okay, good question. And I have some other questions too that I want to get to that you wrote in advance.
Okay.
The question is, should you not have heard it? So we agreed to 18 and all of a sudden the projects come in at 20. It's a possibility. It is a possibility. What happens? Again, these are projects that are going to be over the next 3 to 5 years. And if you look at that slide I showed as our reserves build, we believe that we're going to have the reserves to handle those contingencies. We also believe that as we look at $18 million worth of projects, maybe a new building will be 7 million. Maybe the irrigation system will be 3.5 million. That's what happens when you have a number of projects at the scope of the scope that we do. Some will be a little more, some will be a little less. All I can tell you is that the best estimates, trying to build in for inflation, the developers, the contractors are telling us that our price should be within 10% of the cost. And we will have sufficient reserves. Now, again, it depends. If we're going to wait a couple of years to do this, then it will probably be 20 million.
So at least another question I had, Bill, is do you anticipate any large effect on membership dues with all the project and maybe the extra expenses it generates, besides the proposed 5% surcharge for the capital reserve? For instance, my worry is if we're paying whatever it is now, we're full golf members, we're paying $9,000 a year. 5 years from now, we're going to be paying $19,000 a year.
We're now two separate tracks. We've got the capital expense one track, and then the income that's going to come in is going to build our capital reserves.
Right.
For these other projects. We do not anticipate, for the most part, dues increases in our pro forma much more than inflationary increases. That's fundamentally what we're planning for. We are planning on pretty big increases in initiation fees. We believe, not next year, but we believe once we get the right quality amenities, that we'll be able to get $20,000 as an initiation fee for a golf member. We're at seven and a half, we're moving to 10 next year. Very difficult to get $20,000 for a golf member when he drives in and sees the kind of parking lot that we have. So it's tough. As we improve the amenities, we'll be able to increase the initiation fees. As we improve, we're able to, our social memberships are way underpriced. When you look at social memberships in virtually every club in the area, and I mean way underpriced. But we are also way under delivering. And we feel as if we could deliver more to the social members, we can make it more valuable, that we'll be able to charge more in that area. So, no, I don't see any huge increases. We don't forecast any huge increases in the dues.
Okay, thank you, Bill.
Wait, one more over here.
Well, Bill, I'm Dick Hemingway, Wilton Crescent as well. I sent you an email a couple days ago regarding the repurposing of space for the administrative offices. I think your comments are well taken in terms of trying to renovate the current space. But there's 3,150 square feet of space in the varsity club as it is right now. And you could utilize about 1,000 of that, put 9 private offices off to one side with hallways. You've already got bathrooms, you've got a kitchen. You could leave the lower level where you walk in, the reception area to the administrative offices, leave that as a reception area. Maybe John Festick would like to have one larger office and a conference room there. Other staff people could be accommodated in the varsity club if we repurposed it for that purpose. The balance of the varsity club could be either pro shop, it could be meeting rooms. There's over 2,000 square feet of space there. The numbers on the website as of a couple of days ago, and I realized with your slide that those have changed, but there was about $600,000 allocated for repurposing the pro shop. I think that would easily accommodate the repurposing of the varsity club. I appreciate your thoughts on that.
Yeah, the 600, yes, there is a different number, and I mentioned that number. The cost of redoing the pro shop, the existing pro shop, to become the new varsity club would be 600 to $1.5 million, depending on what you folks wanted to do with it. Whether we just put a deck on it and a bar, minimal work, or whether we needed the same size. So that's what that cost is. Your plan that you outlined for the varsity club would work perfectly. All I'm saying is $4 million. That's what it would cost.
How could it possibly cost $4 million to accommodate 10 employees in a space that already exists with walls, ceiling, the floors, bathrooms, kitchen, and everything else? You could put office cubicles in there for $100,000 and accommodate this space.
All right, so first of all, as I indicated, the present offices are not ADA compliant. So as soon as we go for our building permit, we will have to make it ADA compliant. There are also mitigation issues that would have to take place. So when we make it ADA compliant, we're going to need an elevator. That's not a tremendous cost. It's maybe $50,000, maybe less for the elevator.
Bill, if I could interrupt you, we're not going upstairs. We're accommodating the lower level of the varsity club as it stands today.
Well, okay, let me go back to what I said before. As a board member, this is where I'm very stubborn. Our people cannot continue to work in the space upstairs the way it is.
I agree with you, and that's why I'm suggesting you abandon that space.
Okay, all right, well, I didn't understand that. All right. Okay, we abandon that space. We need 4,000 square feet.
For 10
That
employees,
is, pardon me?
4,000 square feet for 10 employees?
No, no. I'll show you how we come to the space use. Average rule of thumb for an office, 200 to 250 square feet per person. Remember, we're not doing this for today. We're doing this for the next decade. Doesn't make sense to make this huge investment in remodeling for just what we have today. So what we have speculated is offices for 15 employees with average size space with a combination of open and private offices. Breaks down this way. Medium office, 150 to 200 square feet. Small office, 90 to 100. Open offices, you have to allocate 60 to 110 square feet per person. A conference room, 50 square feet plus 25 square feet per person that you want in that conference room. Reception, you need about 100 to 200 square feet. Break room, 75 square feet plus about 20 square feet per person. You need about 200 square feet for storage. And halls and corridor take up about 20 to 30% of the usable space. 15 employees with average size space. We're not talking about building up second homes, but we're not talking about putting them in almost uninhabitable cubicles. But a combo of open and private offices is 3,600 square feet. That's how we arrive at that number. The size of the varsity club is about that size. So yes, we could use the entire bottom floor. We could use the entire bottom floor for the offices and move the varsity club. We would still have to bring the entire building up to code. If we're not using the upstairs, wouldn't need the elevator, wouldn't have to mess with it. But to remodel 4,000 square feet, you're going to be $1.5 million to $2 million. And now we have no meeting space. I mean, it's a domino effect. There's no meeting space now. And because the pro shop has to stay where it is.
Bill, I appreciate your efforts and I appreciate your time and investment. I just say that I've done this for over a 40-year period of time. Your numbers are lavish in terms of spaces. And my general comment is, I hope you will think further about repurposing current spaces. Your renovation of the pro shop, it reminds me of moving the croquet space to eliminate the croquet space to build pickleball courts to rebuild another croquet space. I think we need to think about if we've got a beautiful new renovated outdoor space for dining with a bar and all that purpose well done, we really don't need another such space where the pro shop is. And I think that's the problems that we're running into, that is virtually doubling the cost of phase 2 projects.
Dick, let me say, personally, I agree with you about the varsity club. We are simply reacting to what has in the input to us by a large number of members. In terms of repurposing the space, you could call it, all right, let's assume that 3,600, let's assume 3,600 square feet is lavish. We have now approximately 2,200, I believe, square feet. We have no conference room. We have no break room. There are no restrooms up there, but we have about 2,200 square feet now. We're saying 3,600 square feet. I don't know how lavish they are, 400 or 500 feet. But that doesn't change the problem if we move the offices down to the varsity club. They're still going to take up virtually the whole varsity club. We can't move the pro shop there. It's still going to have to renovate the whole thing. That's the option. I'm not concerned what option we take. I'm concerned as a board member with providing the funding for the most efficient option for the needs.
He'd be good on the advisory committee.
Yes. Yeah, you're the guy we need. If you've done that, you're the guy we need. Give us the funding, let us get the funding, and you decide how best to spend the $6.5 million. Bring it in at $4 million.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Paul Charlesworth has.
Mr. Diedemeyer is next.
He's in Kenwood.
Yes, my question is about the assessment versus the bond. My understanding is that the homeowners have to vote for the bond. If that fails, what is the board prepared to do on the amount of assessments that we have? I remember your graph you showed earlier about 1,200, what was it?
Board.
I don't know, so much per year over 3 years. I don't remember the amount, but where will we be on the assessments and going forward if the bond was to fail?
Well, if the bond were to fail, first of all, let me make it very clear. The board has discussed this in no real detail. You know, we're going to assume we're going to have a bond. The board has discussed this in no real detail because the alternatives are just so unattractive. But if we agree that some of these things have to be done, we're asking for 18 million. If we didn't have a bond, it's a lot cheaper. So we probably want 15 million. So that would be a $15,000 assessment payable over, say, 3 years. Could be less. It could be a $10,000 assessment. It could be $12,000. Or it could be nothing. We're just say, all right, never, we'll let it. We'll just wait.
Well, it's pretty clear that, well, to a lot of us, and you said this also, that $10 million, it seems to be a lot of agreement on that, on a bond, but we want another 6.5 to 8 million. Are you prepared to say the bond passes 10 million, and how much higher do we go for the assessments for some more?
That is another possibility. We pass a $10 million bond and could assess for the rest. So that would be really a $6.5 million or $6,500 per home, approximately $6,500 per home.
But there's no decision. Well,
no, it's not. There's not been a serious discussion about that.
thank you.
But I do believe you bring up a great point. There should be a serious discussion about that. And these alternatives, when we do the survey, some serious alternatives should be presented to everyone.
Thank you.
Dave Waldman.
Got it. Yay. Hi, I appreciate all the work that's been put in here. I think it's just amazing. And there are a lot of problems, obviously, that are you have addressed, and it's done rather well. You know, let's start with the basic premise. I think we all got fooled by the initial switch over from a developer to the RD, and thinking that we had a facility that was 100% intact and we weren't going to be doing much. Two, I think I'm not even going to ask you to answer this one, and that is, why is Henley really more? I'm from Henley. I don't really get it, but let me go to the real one that I'd like you to address. What is the percentage of the operating costs that you are wanting the reserve to be at? How did you find the percentage, and at what pace are you looking to increase to get to that percentage? I think, it's important to have those reserves, but, how did you come up with your numbers?
Well, the easy way to do this, if you look at the depreciation amount each year, of course, your assets are depreciating, and assets have to be replaced. So you can look at that depreciation number. That's about $1.6 million. That's the way our assets have been valued. Our depreciation is about $1.6 million. So you could very quickly say, okay, if we're depreciating $1.6 million, we better put $1.6 million aside for a replacement sooner or later. We know we just spent $1 million on the inside of the dining room. I don't think we want to wait another 25 years. We know that in 10 years, we're probably going to have to redo it, spend another $1 million. So we better start putting $100,000 a year aside. We know that based upon our experience, based upon the depreciation of our assets, and we're getting an even finer fix on this, we're reevaluating every single asset and aging it. Our experience shows us that we need at least $1 million a year toward capital expense. That's what we've been spending over the past 3 years. As we look at the future broadly, that's what we think is going to be required. A lot of those projects on which we base those projections are included in the $18 million bond. By putting those projects and funding them with the bond, it gives us a 5-year period with which to build those assets. $1 million a year is what we're structuring our dues to produce. That's why at the end of that 4 years, we've got a little over $4 million in reserves. So we put all of that money into the reserves. I don't know if that exactly answers it for you, but that's what our strategy is.
Okay, that's vague. The other question becomes, I was under the assumption also that when you take out a bond, that you have to use the money within a certain period of time. Is that true?
That is true. When you take out a bond, the money must be used or committed within a 3-year period.
Committed means what?
Committed means that we can say that we are committing at the end of 3 years. We're saying we're committing $6,500,000 to a new building. Here are our plans. And then we have a reasonable amount of time to do it.
Okay, thank you.
Don Barron is next.
Go ahead, Ron.
Okay.
I've been waiting for you.
I'm here. It's a long way to go from the community center to Henley and back again. So consider it that way. I got a bunch of questions. The surprise of the day is I run to take the dog out and I come back and I'm looking at a different rate that I'm going to be paying. And I don't know what I'm getting for it or anything or how it got there. But we're going to work that out off the meeting. All right. I think what we're going to end up having to do, quite selfishly, is have a bunch of your people and a bunch of my people get together and have a drink over it and figure out which end is up. All right. That's number one. Number two, are the assessment, are the fees calculated on per household and 1,202? Or are they on house square footage, or what is the building block benchmark that you're using for all of these calculations?
You're talking about the bond payment per household, is that correct? How much each house pays for how much each
house, right.
Okay, it has not been finally decided. However, the leaning of the board, I can tell you, is toward a 50-50 split. 50-50, 50% evenly split among every home, and 50% ad valorem. Now, let me tell you why we think that's the way to do it. All of these funds are going to club amenities. We're trying to make a better country club. That improves it for every member. So when you play a round of golf, your enjoyment is not diminished by the size of the house you're in. The hamburger doesn't taste better because you're in a smaller or larger house. As members, we enjoy equally the amenities. So we say 50% equal. At the same time, we know that a good country club helps real estate values, helps maintain, increase real estate values, and those with more expensive homes will stand to benefit a little more. So 50% ad valorem, 50%, 50-50. Now we find smaller homes don't want to do that, they're totally unhappy. Bigger homes don't want to do that, they're totally unhappy. So we must be right at 50-50.
No, you answered that question. That just one more thing I have to calculate in. What's the chance you will consider something like an $8 to $10 million bond, period? And 1 or 2 or 3 years later, we go up after another one, or a different financial instrument if one is better?
That is feasible. It's just very expensive. It's very expensive. All we're doing really is kicking the can down the road. We're splitting it into two. We're saying, look, we know we have to do these things. Let's split it into two parts. There would be no real savings for you. The $400, $400 to $500 a year you would be saving by having a smaller bond would be eaten up because it's going to take a bigger bond to get the same job done. And the overhead costs of a bond are substantial. I mean, because we're going to have 18 million, we're only going to net a little 16.5, I think, or 16.4 because of the cost of the bond underwriting. The other thing that occurs is that the smaller the bond issue, the little harder it is to market. And the way you have to market these smaller bond issues, you got to up the interest rate just a bit. I'm not talking big numbers, but I'm talking, it's going to be a few basis points that we would have to go up for smaller bond offers.
All right, because the one thing I may be guilty of misinterpreting is if we're going for 16, 18 million dollars and it has to be committed in 3+ years.
Yes.
I've given you access to a nasty second line on the real estate taxes, because people are going to be looking at other properties in other areas and saying, well, gee, everything was great. And I can understand the first tax with the takeover of the club and everything. I don't understand where the talk about getting the irrigation done on the first go around was, and it hasn't gone around. And now there's the second one that's probably going to be a little bit more money. And we're going to lose market share based solely on the impression of 2 line items totaling $2,000+.
Yes, well, as I indicated, with the exception of Henley, most neighborhoods, the cost of living in the home is less for most University Park neighborhoods compared with comparable areas in Lakewood Ranch. However, nonetheless, your point is well taken. It is an extra line that people look at when you go to sell your home. And I think as we look at the alternatives, that's one of the things that we have to look at. You have to look at. This is what we need. This is what we have to do. The most economical way to do it is with a bond. Now, perhaps you don't want that big a number on the real estate bill. Maybe you'd rather do it with pay more money and do bond and bond later, but then that money's still going to be on the real estate bill. Maybe you'd rather do smaller bond assessment. That money doesn't appear on the real estate bill, but you're going to be paying for facilities you're not going to be enjoying for their life. And so these are considerations that have to be made. The essential component here is these are the projects that are needed. And with minor exception, I've heard questions, but I haven't heard a whole lot of challenge that, no, we don't need any of these things.
Well,
We do need them.
I don't know, but I will be finding out more and more. But the other thing I would like to hear is the initial pass-through looked like kids on a Christmas wish list. All right. What I would like to know is we're giving you in some way, shape or form money to invest. What are you doing to get us a return on investment? We missed the summer, increased the summer golf rate. All right, what's coming? Because I'm assuming you got to do some things to bring money in besides taking our money out. So has that been contemplated? And that's my last question. So
Yes, it has been contemplated, and as I indicated, we do have the pro formas that we anticipate that when this money is invested in the amenities of the club, that because of that investment, we will be able to increase revenues at a minimum of about 1.5 million per year. That's what our projections are. It comes from a variety of sources, not the least of which would be increased initiation fees.
all right, thank you very much. And we'll be sending you an invite for a serious sit down and talk.
Okay, we can do that, but only one of us can come, so.
Well, maybe I'll have 5 people talk to 5 different people. And then
Well, that could be too. That can be done.
so we'll work it out. Thank you.
Yep.
Next question.
I don't have, oh, Mr. Flag.
Oh. I apologize, Ian. How did you start?
It's really just a comment and not to tilt at windmills, but if we're paying here in Henley $1,200 to $1,400 per residence, coincidentally, my wife just talked about joining the fitness center. If I'm paying the $1,200 or $1,400 and I have to pay an additional initiation fee and pay $10 a class, as Angela said, why would I want to do that? And I do want to be an upstanding, pay my freight member of the community, but that just doesn't make good horse sense.
Yeah,
That's all.
well, you got no argument from me. You will have an argument once we get rid of a juice bar with treadmills and have a real fitness center. Then I would answer your question. I do not believe that the present people paying the kind of money they're paying for our fitness center and the kind of fitness offerings that we have the facilities for are getting a very good deal for their money. That's what we're trying to fix. Exactly.
Okay, next question. Paul
I
Charles.
don't see any other hands raised right now.
No, Paul Charles.
I think
Oh, I'm sorry. I was looking at the raise hand feature. I apologize.
Might not have his feature on. Okay.
Go ahead, Paul.
Unmute.
You unmute yourself.
Unmute.
We're
Okay.
unmuted. Thank you. Bill, I think this has been an excellent presentation. I saw many things that I hadn't seen and heard before, and I think they're very important. 2 things. One, I'd like to reaffirm what you said about the office space. I was one of the people that did a risk management walkthrough of the office space, and there really are safety issues there. Health issues with the mold, tripping hazards, et cetera. So I see.
Don't say that in public, but.
Well, you know what? It's a fact. And I know that efforts have been made to remediate some of those things, so it's not like you haven't been trying.
Let me just get that one point. We have one remediation estimate, just to remediate the problems, $500,000. Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, I believe it. So for me, it's both a matter of safety, and as a 20-plus year resident and member of the club, I feel the same way that you do, Bill. It is a complete and utter embarrassment that we ask our good people to work and do their best under such circumstances. So that makes the office space a tipping point for me personally, and I think perhaps on reflection by others, others may feel the same way. If that is the reason why we have to go beyond that 10 million at the top of the list, along with the other reasons, then I think that's what we have to do. That said, my overarching concern is that we end up at the end of the day with a community that has come together on these issues. If we have a vote that is marginally one way or the other, I think that's, aside from a no vote, as far as I'm concerned, that would be one of the most disappointing outcomes we could possibly have. So I urge that the communication that you did today, which I assume was updated recently and so on and so forth, be spread broadly throughout the community to provide maximum opportunities for others to hear it, get better informed, and hopefully support your efforts more broadly. That's what I have to say.
Thanks.
Any more questions? Jen?
Any other hands?
All right, if there are no other questions, I'm very appreciative of the time that you all took to learn about the issues. As I indicated, there's an awful lot of misinformation. There are people that are using, they're making an effort at spreading misinformation, and I appreciate your time to talk with me. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Bill.
Bye, everybody. Bye, Mr. Barron.